Now, when I asked you what is lies, you want me to tell you what the lies is. Tell me what lies that I've lied, Michael.
I just said to you, you said they fell out. That's
No,
what
no.
you said.
I
One
said
thing
yeah.
that-
So did he argue with Cephas?
Yeah, he had a...
Okay, there, done. Next,
that's-
next lie, go on.
What does falling out mean?
I don't recall using that language, but let's say he argued. Let's say I clarified, yeah?
Fine.
Falling out doesn't differ from argue. It just seems like this is more my lexicon.
Yes.
Now, did he argue in regards to with the men that James sent against him, yeah? The Jews that were with him, Barnabas and Cephas, did he argue with them?
No, you're talking about... Which incident are you talking about?
When the men from James, yeah, come to Paul, and he's eating with the Gentiles. And when Cephas sees the men from James, he stands up to say to him, set him side away from these Gentiles. Do you recall?
You're confused. Let's go to the verse, because that's not what happened.
Look, if
What
you
you're
don't know, no offense, if you don't know the Bible, I can't
No, what you're saying isn't
engage.
what happened, though. That's the point.
Okay,
I know
sure.
that isn't.
Okay,
I've
let's
read
go.
the
Okay,
verse.
let's go. Have you got a Bible on you?
Yeah.
Okay, come.
It's just going to be in Corinthians.
It wouldn't be in Corinthians, either Galatians or it's Galatians or Acts.
No, it's Galatians 2.
Yeah, it can't be a thing. Corinthians. Okay, here you go, Galatians 2, yeah? When Cephas, who? Peter,
Yeah.
came to Antioch, I opposed him.
Yeah.
What does oppose mean?
Well, you
Not,
argue.
you're saying I lied. Yeah, you're saying I said he fell out. What does oppose mean? I'll read more. He opposed him, I opposed him to his face because he stood condemned. Now Galatians is written by who?
Paul.
By Paul. So we don't hear the other side of the argument. For before certain men came from James. What did I say, James? You said, I think you're confused, Hamza. That's not the case. It's exactly as I said it. Certain men came from James. Who is James?
He's one of the elders.
He's one of the pillars of the church. James and who else? There's three of them, the pillars of the church. Who are they?
It would be James, John, and Peter would be the other
And
one.
Peter, the three pillars of the church. So he said, for before certain men came from James. So that's how we know James is the leader of the Jerusalem church. He used to eat with the Gentiles, but when he arrived, he began to draw back and separate himself from the Gentiles because he was afraid of those who belonged to the circumcision group. Let's go to the next verse. And the other Jews joined in his hypocrisy, so that they by the hypocrisy, even Barnabas was led astray.
Yeah. Okay.
So am I right in my recollection, or you still think I'm wrong that he opposed him?
Reading it. No, keep going.
Okay, so what does your answer that he
I'm
he
trying
fell
to
out
find
with?
the falling out.
Okay,
They had an argument. So
Okay.
when people argue, do they automatically fall out?
you keep saying falling out. I'm clarified if that's what you. I don't need
Alright,
to
so-
say.
so
Do you
what-
understand the point that I was made?
Alright,
Is that he
so-
argued with them,
so-
and here it says he opposed Cephas to his face for his
Alright, so-
hypocrisy, and Barnabas
Yeah,
and the other Jews. Do you get it?
So if you did say falling out, you take that back.
I have to see that. If I no, but what is it your understanding from that? That you're
because
trying to
when-
base your argument on? What is it that you're?
I've had arguments with people, but we don't fall out. We just have an argument. That's
Well, this is
normal.
it. This is it. One can suppose that they fell out completely. Yes, because from the year 60 onwards, we don't hear anything from Paul, do we?
You don't hear anything.
No, we don't.
Right,
Do we
but
hear anything from Paul?
Have you read 2 Peter?
Paul
What
did
it
not
said about Paul?
offer. Paul did not offer 2 Peter.
No, what did Peter say
Yo,
about
what was
Paul?
my claim just now? What was my claim? What did I just tell you?
Which one? About...
Yeah, that we don't know, basically we don't know what happened to the end of the life of Paul. We don't know. What we have is Acts, which was written at the end of the 1st century. Now in Acts, which is written by Luke, or so they say it's written by Luke, it could clearly tell us what happened, because the Acts of the Apostle is about the life of Paul.
No, it's about multiple people.
No, it's called
Peter,
Acts of the Apostles, but the main character in Acts of the Apostle is Paul, if you read it.
Later on, at the beginning.
Luke, no, yes. So the main character is who?
Of what?
Please, thank you very much. I can't have a discussion with you. You're not being genuine.
answering your
No, anyone who knows the Bible and Acts, the main protagonist of Acts is Paul. It should not be difficult for you.
Which chapter? Do you want me to tell you?
What did I just say? What did I? No,
Let me
repeat to me.
answer.
No, Look, Michael, I don't like these type of disingenuous discussions. It wastes my time. I said, who is the main protagonist of Acts? I never say which chapter. I said of Acts as a whole. Who is it?
From Acts 13 onwards, it's Paul. I'm giving you the answer.
No, you're acting like
no,
childish.
You don't know. That's why.
What's that? What's that? What I don't know?
No.
What is it?
You don't know that most of Acts up to the beginning.
In the beginning
Peter
is
and John.
yes, I know. I've read Acts.
So why did you ask
No,
me
no,
that question?
I asked the main character, and you said which chapter. I never asked you which chapter. You changed my original question to suit your purpose. Anyway, Paul, if you want to know, yeah, the Acts it doesn't mention about the death of Paul. It stops mysteriously, so we don't actually know what happens to Paul.
Yeah,
The first Christians ignored him entirely. Up unto Justin and Martyr, we don't even hear about him. His works. You asked a question. You want to answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem
Okay.
is
So it could be very It could be very well that Paul did fall out with the disciples completely, and we don't hear from him. What we do hear about Paul is his side of the story. The New Testament, 27 books, composed 13 of them, that's half of the New Testament, by Paul, but we don't hear the other side. What we do have in this incident is two books. We have Galatians, which is written by Paul, and the other side of the story is Luke, who is the traveling companion of Paul, but we don't have the story of what happened in the Jerusalem Council from James, not the Jerusalem Council. We don't. Listen to my words careful. We don't have the account of what happened in the Council of Jerusalem by James, by Peter. We have it from who? Acts, which is Luke, a companion of Paul, and from Galatians. Is that clear? So which part of what I said was a lie?
No. So essentially, if
You say that I lied.
No, I just wanna
I'm
make
just
sure.
asking you.
So if you said they fell out,
Okay, no
you'll take
offense.
that back.
Yeah. No. I said it's still possible. I said it's still possible. I don't even know.
No. According to direct evidence I can read, that's what I'm going by. So if you
Okay, let me show you more. Because this is one of those silly arguments that get nowhere. That's what I'm saying. It's like even if I prove to you, you're still gonna come up with a different one. Yeah. How many churches were there that left him?
how many that
Yeah.
well, however many.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Is Jesus the creation or the creator?
Yeah, they want to know about this stuff. Like there's the incident of Antioch, which I was talking about as well. Yeah. If you just
Searching on Google. You didn't even wait for the question to get answered.
from where the Bible, I don't have the Bible app. I'm not a Christian.
No, which one you after? I can find it.
When all the churches left him. Huh? See, that's what I'm saying. I don't think you know. No, he says all of the churches of Asia have left me. You don't know them. This is what I'm saying. It's difficult, Michael, to speak to a person if they don't know the Bible.
Yeah, but you're happy to speak to that guy.
No. But they don't try to argue from their whims like you just argued. You said you said they made this so smart aleck comment, yeah? Oh, you use a Google, you don't use a Bible. I go straight to the Bible. But then when I mention something of the Bible, you don't know about it.
No, the reason why I said that is because of
You acted like as in what I said wasn't there, but it was there. Oh, so you know what I'm saying is there.
It's recorded, so everyone can find it.
Yeah.
it's
So
no problem.
look. You know, 2 Timothy 1:15 make it easy for you. You know that everyone in the province of Asia has deserted me. Why have they deserted him?
Alright, what's about 2 Timothy?
No offense, I need to give dawah. This is the reason I'm here.
So you're fine lying to that guy, but now
You keep
someone
lying,
comes-
yeah, but we've had plenty of people come. No offense, I've spoken to you. You've said that when Paul says he opposed Cephas to his face, you asked me when did he argue, or you said when did he fall out, yeah. But what's the point you're making, the greater point you're making? What's the point? What?
No, it's all the stuff you were saying to that guy about Paul, and even Dawood was joining in.
But you haven't made a point, that's what I'm saying. Paul, he didn't agree with the apostles. You see in the Council of Jerusalem, do you know what the Council of Jerusalem is?
Yeah, when they're talking about the Gentiles.
Okay, why are they talking about the Gentile child?
Well, because people are accusing Paul
Yeah?
of saying that the Jews shouldn't circumcise their children.
Is Paul doing this?
Huh?
Is Paul doing that? Telling them that they shouldn't circumcise? I want to know your opinion.
No,
He's not doing that.
no.
Okay. Is he telling the people that the law is not important, from what you understand from the readings?
Yeah, but remember, the council is about
No,
him
I'm-
telling Jews not to circumcise their children.
No, I'm asking you in regards, because the James is saying that we're hearing that you're telling people that you're to move away from the laws of Moses.
Yeah, the Jews.
The Jews, yeah. So is this true or not?
No. But you realise that James agrees with that.
So now, why is it then James doesn't argue back? Why is it James says here, yeah? Answer me this, yeah? Look at all these thousands of Jews who are jealous for the law.
Yeah.
Yeah? Why is it that Paul is told to shave off his hair and do the sacrifices, and he does it?
So that they can see that you
That
do
he's
follow the law.
okay. So this is the point, that the law still exists for the Jews.
Yeah.
And Paul, he's saying that the law is not fully for the Jews. He's saying the circumcision is not only of flesh. Yeah, he talks it down. He said you should not get circumcision. Eating with the Gentiles in this incident. One second. In the incident of Antioch, who is he condemning? Cephas, who is a Jew. What is he condemning him from? Eating with the Gentiles, because their food is unclean. One second, the food is unclean. And who has come to them? James has come to them.
Yeah.
So yes, he's condemning Jews for not following for following the law. He says, I stood up to him because he was a hypocrite. Do you understand?
Yeah, the reason I stood up to him is because Peter assimilated with the Jews because he didn't stay and eat with the Gentiles when the Jews were there.
Yes, because he knew that the laws were still bound.
No,
But
it's nothing to do with
no,
the
of course it is. Why did Peter stand up then? Why did Peter stand up?
Stand up for what?
What do you mean for? No offense here. I don't mean to be rude here, but the conversation goes nowhere.
That's your question.
It's not. Why did Cephas? You act like you don't know nothing. That's why it's hard to do it. Why did Cephas stand up when men from James came to him?
No, it's before. The men from James came because of what happened. So
When the men from James came, it says that Cephas stood up. Why did Cephas stand up? This is the last time I'm asking. If you're going to pretend you don't know what I'm asking you, let's leave it short.
He said, fearing them which were of the circumcision. That's what the text says.
Yes, exactly what I said. They came and he stood up. Now, why did he stand up? That's the next question.
No, because it says, the true separate of fearing them. Yeah, so he.
Come on, Michael. Don't act like you don't know. This is just wasting my time in your time. You know.
You don't want to answer my questions. I'm answering yours just to be nice.
You're not answering mine just to be nice.
Yeah, because remember I said about.
Okay, please, no offense, no offense.
Will you withdraw what you said? If you said that, if you did say.
Okay, so this is my position. This is my position. You want to honestly know? Yeah. I feel that Paul, did argue with the disciples. Not only did he argue with the disciples, he argued with his own churches. Yeah, and he told them that they have to listen to him. This is my honest position. Yeah, they have to listen to him. Yeah. Are you saying it doesn't exist?
No, he wouldn't order them to listen to him.
Okay. I may not be an apostle for them. I am an apostle for you. He says, if you hear gospel other than the gospel I teach you, then this gospel is wrong. Follow my gospel. Yeah, you know.
I think you have to get that first. No, so
also, I don't mean to be rude, Michael. But I don't mean to be rude, Michael.
Yeah.
But it's like every time I'm quoting something, it's like you want.
Because it sounds strange.
Okay,
so
because that's what I'm saying.
Text.
That's what I'm saying. That means you. I don't think you're fully acquainted with the Bible to have this level of discussion.
Yeah, but what you're saying, that's the point. I had to do the same.
I don't know if you're being. Honestly, I don't know if you're being disingenuous, Michael. Yeah, but no problem, innit? So he says, I am an apostle to you. I might not be an apostle to them. Is that what you're saying that you're not familiar with, yeah? Michael. Michael, you're wasting my time. I'm sorry. Please, Michael, please. Once I'm off this place, I'll speak to you. Once I'm off this place. This place here is because I'm giving out free material. Yeah. If someone,
But you were there when you were talking to the other guy for a long time.
Who?
No, it was.
Was it on this?
Yeah, it was right here, and Dawood was.
Yeah, but
standing
Michael,
beside
this conversation takes so much time. Do you agree with that?
him. the other guy as well.
Yeah, but he understood when I was saying something. Yeah, he was understood. I'm telling you something that you're it seems like you're unfamiliar, but I feel that you know. To be honest, I feel.
It's very simple. He's just saying, sorry to interrupt you, I
Yeah,
don't want to be rude.
no, that's right.
It's genuine. It's just it
Yeah,
doesn't sound
First
familiar,
Corinthians.
what
Yeah,
you're
that's what I'm saying.
And
But
he's asking
that's what I'm
to
saying. But you know,
clarify.
because I'm here for a purpose.
Go
Yeah.
on, then.
Look, this is not the
Go on,
first.
go
This is
on.
like the third verse I'm showing him. Yeah.
Go on.
It says here. Yeah. Even though I may not be apostle to others, surely I am to you. This is what I say, and it says it. Is it exactly as I quoted it? Is that?
Did you quote him?
Oh my God.
You got the recording at
You
least.
just what I'm
You can tell
saying.
if he said
This
it.
guy's. Please, Michael. I don't mean to be rude to you.
No, it's fine,
Yeah.
'cause I just
When
wanted to have
you
this-
remind me of Paperboy. We speak very similar
The
to
reason why I wanted to
Paperboy.
have this conversation is
It
just
doesn't like
it's just because of what you said to these guys. So at least now you know that. when
No,
say
you
stuff
haven't
about
established
Paul-
anything.
No, what I'm saying is that when you say
Look, Paul. He argued with, for example, they were following. Paul is here. He can actually help me. Where is it? Which letter of Paul is it? He's talking to his ministry, saying, "Do not go to a different gospel. Stick to the gospel I preached to you."
Would that be an Acts or in
No, it was a London letters. I think it's Philippians
Galatians,
or Galatians. Yes,
sounds promising.
Galatians. So let's go to
Talk
Galatians.
about Jewish Christians who
Yeah.
disagree with him?
Yes, exactly.
James.
Okay.
And Paul's defending his gospel, my gospel, he says.
Yeah, my gospel.
It's his own personal gospel. Against those, obviously, the Jewish Christians who
Here you go.
knew James.
So no other gospel. I am astonished that you, and he's talking to Galatians, are so quickly deserting the one who called you to live in the grace of Christ and are turning to a different gospel. And he goes, which is really no gospel at all. Evidently, some people are throwing you into confusion and are trying to pervert the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven should preach a gospel other than the one we preach to you, let them be under God's curse. An angel under God's curse. This is Paul. What's up?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, man. It's a pleasure.
See you next week.
Yeah. So the point is that there were people that Paul was arguing with in even his own churches. So there were parts of his church were going to other gospels, and this is why he had to address them.
Yeah,
And
it looks-
this
sorry.
was my whole point.
Well, it
was.
looks like they were being misled, and he's trying to correct
No,
it.
no, but you could say it's misled, yeah, if you see it through the lens of a Christian. Do you understand? From the lens or the lens of a Christian. From here is that you have Paul. He teaches a Gentile Christianity, which is completely different from the Jerusalem church,
Why?
which the disciples are teaching.
No, it doesn't
So
say that. It
I'll
doesn't say
build. No, it doesn't say this here, but I'll
All
build.
he's saying is that you're being
yeah,
misled.
I know.
Listen to me,
I know.
this is
Yeah,
my
I know,
gospel. It doesn't mean he wrote the gospel.
Yeah.
He's saying
Yeah.
what I know is how
Yeah,
it
so
should be.
this verse doesn't say that.
Isn't it? Is that
That's
how you
just, yeah, that wasn't a
He
claim
says
what we
in
said.
Here, he said he didn't get the gospel from any man. He,
He
got
said
it directly from a
Jesus.
revelation.
Yeah, a vision.
But the gospel that he
Yeah.
preaches is very different from the gospel the apostles and Jesus himself preached.
Where does it say that?
No, it's not one single place. It's
Galatians chapter 1.
Please show us, if you don't mind.
this is. Look. So
I thought you would know.
this is it's
Assume
like
you-
it's
assume you
hard.
know
No, it's
the
because
passage.
the way you quote it, you quote it in a different
But
way.
what? But you no, I quoted it word
Yeah.
for word. You saw it, yeah. I swear the gospel. I might not be a.
All you've shown.
Oh my gosh, man.
Sorry.
Please,
Sorry,
I don't mean to
carry
be
on.
rude.
Yeah, no, you carry on. I'm
Because I quoted something. He said the way you quoted it sounded like it's not from the. Exactly how I quoted it was there.
Oh.
Now you mentioned something, yeah, but this is the methodology is slightly wrong. So you said, yeah, where did it show that a verse where what the disciples teach is different one from what Paul's is
apostles
teaching.
teach,
Yeah. So it's not a single verse. It's the whole of the what we get from Galatians,
You have to get
particularly,
all the
and
context
Acts, and exactly. So what
So
we
it's
know
not
is,
easy
and
to
historically,
pinpoint.
yeah. So it's this is why it takes a long time to build up the discussion. What we know.
Can I grab this?
Oh, sorry, Malish.
You have to think like a Muslim and then.
Yeah, basically.
No, well,
Basically,
yeah. Are you done?
Yeah, we're done.
Oh man.
So you haven't given us an answer. You've just.
No, I have, but you.
Basically
Yeah.
saying I have to give you various like many points for you.
That's
to
what I'm saying,
understand
yeah.
it. I can't
And
just
I'm
give
willing
you
to
one
do
line
that.
and
I'm
say
willing
this.
to do
So
that, and I have
thinking
done
like
it.
a
That's why
Muslim
it's coming
means,
out.
we actually
So,
do our research.
what is it? There's a Jerusalem church. I'll tell you in synopsis first, yeah? And then if you want all of the details, then
I'll tell you exactly what it says.
so Jesus came, and in Matthew he says, I've not come to abolish the law or the prophets. I've come to fulfill the law. He says, whoever breaks the law, he should be called the least in the kingdom. And whoever follows the law and teaches others to follow the law, and I can show you this if you think it sounds different from what, it should be called great in the heaven. I say unto you, unless your deeds exceed the deeds of the Pharisees, ye should not see the kingdom. You have to go, yeah? Oh, everyone's going or something. You should not see the kingdom of heaven. So Jesus actually taught the law. And not only that, the disciples followed the law up until even after the death of you say is the death of Jesus. Now what happened was Paul on the road to Damascus, I'm telling you very briefly, but it's a very long thing, yeah? On the road he had a vision. And this vision wasn't shared by his companions who was with him.
Hang in there. He heard the voice.
He heard the voice.
And they heard the voice as well.
So it
So that
depends
was
where you're
shared.
reading. So
So
if
that
you
was
read
it. No, just same verses there.
No, so there's
Further down, they heard it
yeah,
as well.
yeah. So in
So
one,
they
in
did
one,
share- they did share that experience.
Yeah.
But he only saw the vision. He was one who saw the
So
vision.
there's a different accounts. There's different accounts. It's more than one account, yeah. Account.
Different perspectives.
Let's see.
Because he fell off, he heard the vision, he heard the voice. Further down you read, they heard the voice as well.
Oh, well, let's see. I'll show you. There's different.
Paul twice.
Huh?
But what's the point
Gave
anyway?
it once and Paul gave it twice.
Yeah, exactly.
what's the point,
Yeah,
anyway?
this is the
Carry on.
point, and a different
No need
account.
to- no need to be
Well, let's
distracted.
look. No, but you
Carry on anyway.
stop. But the different accounts is the point. One account he says he sees it. One account he says he hears it. Yeah. The other account is blinded or something. The other guys don't see in the one account. The other
That's
was
not
yeah.
a problem.
Yeah, no, but I'm
if one
just
gospel
point.
says
Yeah.
he saw and another gospel
No,
says
no.
he heard, it could be both. Just one didn't mention the hearing, one the other one, you know. But carry on.
So he has
the point?
it's a large point. It's that what he preaches differs from what the apostles teach. So anyway, he doesn't see Jesus in flesh. The apostles, which were chosen by Jesus in flesh, did, and they followed the law as Jesus also followed the law. They were also, but Paul, on the other hand, he goes on, and some say this is called antinomianism. I'm not antinomianism. Teaches, doesn't believe in law, or not the law that Jesus teaches, the laws of Moses, some people have different, varying degrees as to what part of the law. So now Jesus, what we understand is when the disciples hear of Paul and his teaching, they're very concerned. So James in Galatians, and it's found in Acts, convenes what's known as the Council of Jerusalem. And he tells Paul off. He says, we hear that you're teaching the people not to hold the law. So this is the accusation that even apparently according to these testimonies, we're hearing of Paul. But Michael is saying, no, where is that? No one claims that about Paul not teaching. But this very council is to resolve that issue. That we're hearing that you're telling people not to follow the law of Moses. But this is different from what Jesus taught and the disciples taught. So this council is now convened. It's known as a Council of Jerusalem. And in it, Paul is subject to the law himself, the law that apparently that he's trying to break. So they're saying that, James now is saying, all of these Jews who are zealous for the law, they need to see that you yourself have an apostate and there's no truth in this claim. So shave off your hair and do the rituals. And he done the rituals, which means he himself is also subject to the law. Now what Paul says, he says, unto the Gentile I become a Gentile. I'm not sure if he recalls this or it sounds a bit, and a Jew. So he's speaking with a double tongue here. He says also, if by my life the truth is abounded, then why do you judge me as a sinner? Now why would someone make that disclaimer? I know I am. I moved to the...
That's good up to now. Thank you.
Yeah? So
What
did
was
you
the-
understand?
what was
So
the
Paul
apostles'
now the New Testament is made of 27 books, and 13 of them is Paul's writings. Half of those Paul's writings are known as pseudepigrapha. We don't know if we can ascertain if Paul is the author. So they say maybe it was written in Paul's name. Now we have about 6 or so that we can say from stylistics it does belong to Paul.
See, the thing is...
So that was my contention, but he said...
Hang in there,
Yeah.
hang in there. You've done very good, thank you.
said there.
Basically, apostles are teaching something, Paul's teaching something else. Then he goes and he says, he contradicts
Yeah,
himself.
and-
I'm to the Gentiles, but then I'm a Gentile, and I'm also to the Jews. To the
And he doesn't mind
and-
doing
and
that. Yeah,
Jerusalem.
he doesn't mind.
Now you say your point.
Yeah, you know, it's
No,
gone.
so what you just said there about the Paul's writing, is that unanimous from the Christian scholars?
The modern contemporary scholars have a field. You want me to answer it or not? Listen to the answer. Nothing in Christian scholarship is unanimous. I think you know this. Do you know this? Do you know this?
Yeah.
Okay,
they're
so to
unanimous
ask,
on the
no,
resurrection.
no.
So you should
No, even in the resurrection, they're not
No, you
unanimous.
don't know. Carry on.
Yeah.
Carry on.
So this idea, yeah, that they have to be unanimous on a topic is not true.
No, but then you should
No.
say, when you say about Paul, that
Yeah.
is not unanimous.
What's not unanimous?
What you said about his writings being pseudepigrapha.
The majority of modern contemporary scholars agree in the field of pseudepigraphy that half of, in fact, I'll show you. Because I think you're quite argumentative. You come across as very nice, but you argue, and then I have to show you. Yeah?
Very gentle, straight
He's very
man.
gentle,
Don't
yeah,
say
yeah.
that, that's
But the
wrong.
problem is that he opposes every point, and then I show him, but he still doesn't accept it.
Well, ask
Look.
him, do you agree? What is it you don't agree?
No, he's saying, don't say unanimous. He
Yeah.
never said unanimous.
Yeah, exactly.
He said
saying
majority
you
of the
shouldn't
scholars.
say.
Now,
He didn't
okay,
though, he
I
said
didn't say
majority.
that. I never said unanimous. You know what I'm saying? But majority of scholars agree that most of the writings of Paul's in the New Testament are pseudonymous. They don't belong to him. It's called pseudepigrapha. Even Bart Ehrman writes a book called Forge explaining this.
Please.
But I'm going to show him.
Not respect him.
But you
Do
know,
not
But one
mention
second, one
Bart
second.
Ehrman.
do you know what that means?
Yeah, but
So many people say to
no,
me,
no. But this is so known. This is so known. Pseudepigrapha.
he says a lot of things which are very wrong. Ben, I carry on.
Let me show this point because this is one way he
You have to
stopped it on.
understand
Yeah?
what that means, what he's saying. Yeah, what he means is that someone's copied Paul's writings and written them down in their own style.
He never said that.
No, but that's what he means.
He said
No,
13,
who said
he
that?
13
No,
scriptures.
that's the meaning.
He said 13 scriptures are implied to be Paul's inside the Bible, right?
Yeah.
That's out of 27, so at least half of it is implied to be Paul.
Yeah.
Now, only half of that has been verified by a majority of the scholars
Thank
that
you.
it belongs to Paul due to the handwriting. The other half still hasn't been verified.
It wouldn't be based on handwriting.
Yeah,
Anyway.
but we're happy not with scholars. We're happy with the church fathers.
No, but he's correcting me,
The community
but they're
that grew
scholars.
From there, the eyewitnesses that were there.
His
They'll
contention with
criticize
me,
you.
his contention with me is that I didn't say that unanimous, you know, I say that unanimous, but I didn't say this. Look, if this topic of pseudepigrapha is well established in scholarly circles, you don't have to believe it. I believe that scholars endeavor throughout their life to come to a certain point. Every clothing you have in the basis of a scholarly endeavor, the floor that you walk on is based on scholarly endeavor. They need to get biologists, even your feet, ortho, dental, dentists, all bring ideas together so then they can have a holistic idea and understanding. So this idea is like when you say church fathers, they are scholars. They were the first scholars. Yeah, Eusebius, Athanasius, they were all scholars. Yeah, they were scholars. You can't say they weren't scholars. But they're scholars. But going back to it anyway. So the topic of pseudepigraphy, if you don't know, is a very interesting point, yeah? That books of the Bible are not really from the people who is attributed. And some of them, for example,
Why'd
are the
you say
book. This is not me saying, that's what I'm saying. It's
Eyewitnesses and eyewitnesses to eyewitnesses.
So let's stick to one
They,
one
and
point.
the community, they named them books right at the very beginning.
That's all.
They attribute the names of who wrote them.
So we'll get to that question. One second.
That's time
Let me
of
just
life.
finish. Let me finish thing, yeah? So what are the pseudepigrapha? You could type this in any Google search, yeah? Be judicious in your sources.
I'm going to call the police in a minute.
But you have to be judicious.
It's good.
Yeah.
You know what's good? You know a lot, you remember every point and you're carrying on with your points.
Yeah, but this is the problem. You know, when you ask a question, yeah, sometimes it goes off so
pushes you
far
off
in,
track,
yeah, and then I'm told to justify a point that I don't even believe in. That's why I'm trying to understand what is that he's come to me today, Michael, yeah, with he said everything I said was lies. Then when I quote the Bible, he said, I don't remember it as like that. But then I show him, he doesn't back down and say, sure, you're right. He's not saying that in this. You heard this. Anyway, now when it comes to
maybe
pseudo,
just doesn't
maybe. But this is what I'm saying. It's not beneficial for me to argue with a debater who's not willing to understand. Do you see my point of view?
You should say for the camera's sake, say your points.
Oh, I
There's
forgot
millions
the
of people that
camera.
go- There's about 10 million people on this thing.
So pseudo
Let everyone
pigrapher.
make their own mind.
Yeah. So
What does he want? Cut it? Tell him, oh, I'm sorry. Just say your point. Don't worry. Be happy.
epistle to the Ephesians.
Yeah.
Epistle to the Colossians, epistle to the second epistle to the Thessalonians. My pronunciation is all bad, yeah.
All Greek, yeah.
All Greek,
I'm
yeah.
Greek.
Yeah. You're Greek, yeah? First epistle to Timothy, the pastoral letters, yeah? Second epistle to Timothy and epistle to Titus. These 6 books are referred to as the Deuterocanonical Pauline letters, meaning secondary, standing in the corpus of Paul's writings. How many? 6.
Yes.
How many of these books do you have in the Bible? 13. The other ones are disputed, and this is what the word that I always use, they're disputed.
Now, who
meaning
disputes them?
the scholars.
Which scholars? Modern day scholars.
Modern day scholars, yeah.
Why wouldn't they dispute the early church fathers and
So
the
they
scholars
did.
before?
So this good question that what's your
No,
name?
it's very important.
Yeah, it is. I'll answer this. I don't mind you asking me questions, yeah, but it has to be genuine. Like, Michael's questions was like
There's
bouncing.
things I don't know. I say I don't know.
We learn from each other, yeah.
Yeah.
And just if
What's
you
your
say
name?
I don't know.
Okay, just give me any name.
George.
George.
What's your
So Hamza.
Hamza,
That's nice
pleased
to
to
meet
meet
you.
you.
So I like the way your line of questioning. So
No,
now,
it's very important.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
no problem.
If
is gentle
if
discussion.
you say I don't know, it doesn't mean you're
Yeah.
wrong. It just
Thank
means you
you.
don't know at that point.
Thank you very
and same
much.
with me.
Thank you. And
We're
this is
just
why I don't
learning
like
and we're
debaters here.
discussing, yeah.
This is why I don't like debaters here. It's like they expect
all
everyone
ego.
to be an ego, a walking encyclopedia. So they come research and they come up to you.
Yeah,
I don't do. You watch my debates. I don't put people down. All my discussions, I try not to because for me, there's something
all right, but
but anyway,
leave that.
so
Before you
how
carry
do
on.
we know? So your last question in regards
No,
to
the question, same question.
1 second. So Hebrews was once upon a time believed to be a writing.
No.
of Paul.
My point is, sorry I'm interrupting you because I know when you carry on I'm going to forget because I've got a very short memory.
All of us. Yeah.
I've forgotten. No. Right, one minute.
I
Scholars.
remember.
The early scholars, the early days, there was
Why
no
didn't they
dispute.
dispute?
Oh,
They
yeah.
weren't
That was your
dispute.
question, yeah. Why
Yeah.
didn't they dispute?
They didn't dispute this.
Okay,
This
so
was
some
all
of the early-
authenticized
yeah.
in the early church fathers.
When you say early
the
church
councils,
fathers,
the
yeah,
councils,
this is a good
this
question.
was all agreed.
This is a good
Why
question.
now these modern scholars? Only when it was the World War, the German scholars, they bring up other things and they're refuted. You've got Bart Ehrman,
George.
allegedly he's a scholar.
So I agree
He's
with your
an
question.
idiot.
I got your question.
Answer me that point.
Good,
now.
okay. So now when you say the early scholars, he's referring to from the 4th century. This is more than 300 years. I'll explain, trust
Which
me.
scholars?
I'll explain, trust me. Let me have some kind of time.
time.
Yeah,
I
just to build
apologise.
no problem,
Carry
George.
on.
Courteous gentleman. So in the first, no, I'll take it. So, so the first 300 years, there were different canons, and not even canons, sorry. There were different writings held by different groups of people who would be identified now as Christians, but they weren't Christians before. There are Jewish people, majority of them, who believed in Jesus, and on the other hand, there were Pauline Christians who were Hellenistic, and they believed in Jesus. So they're not Christians as we know, because Christianity is a developed thought that came afterwards, and I explain that later as well. After the death of Jesus, as you said, there were multiple people who believed in Jesus, not because something was written, some because of oral tradition. After the oral tradition, this is why scholars like Streeter, and it's generally accepted, there are 4 different levels to the compilation of the Gospels. One is the oral tradition, then it is the collections, then it is the proto-Gospels, and then it is the Gospels. So this is the period we're first talking about, the oral tradition, and then afterwards there were collections like the Gospel of Thomas, which is just a gospel of sayings of things, and the Q1, which is just a gospel of sayings. Now there was different groups with different books, and each of them argue. How do we know this? We have what you call is heresiologists like Epiphanes, Irenaeus, Athanasius, Eusebius, that argue about these different types of sects. They're writing much later on, but they're looking back through their Trinitarian lens and saying that these sects are wrong. But at the time, because there was no Bible or collection of books that any one Christian can say that group is wrong, because the collection of the Bible came afterwards. What spurred it on is interesting. Someone called Marcion of Rome in the year 150 came with his own compilation of Bible, or Bible, the first Bible that we have, or Canon. He had all the letters of Paul, yeah, and he had the Gospel of Luke. So this shows that some of the groups, early ones, which you can even say as scholars, because he himself had many followers, he cancelled out the Old Testament because for Marcion, who was a disciple of Paul, yeah, you know exactly, he believed that only these books were divine. He rejected John, he rejected Matthew, he rejected Mark. So it's only when you come to the year 331 when Eusebius says Constantine issued a verdict for him to do or authorized him to collect an official record of all the inspired books. Whether he completed that, we don't know. But what we have, the earliest list that we have in the completion that has all the 27 books of today is called in the, I think, the 8th Athanasian Easter letter, where he writes all of the 27 books. But even at that time, what they accepted, we no longer accept. For example, Hebrews, almost consensus amongst modern scholars that Hebrews, and some of the scholars of back then also, did not believe Paul wrote it. So scholars from that early church fathers did not believe Paul. In fact, even if we go back, just modern recent history, Martin Luther King called the Epistle of James the Epistle of Straw. And the reason is James is supposed to be a brother of Jesus and like the head of the early Jerusalem church. He says that there's no, his focus of the book of James, yeah, is the life of Jesus, the teaching of Jesus. But Christianity isn't much of the teaching or life of Jesus. It's about the birth, the death, the resurrection. And that's why Martin Luther said that this book is a epistle of straw, because it doesn't teach about theology. It doesn't talk about resurrection. But what we know is that these things must have not been important, because in documents such as Q, in documents such as the Gospel of Thomas, and what they were sourced from as a common source sayings, there is no resurrection. These are the earliest strata of writings that we have. There's no resurrection. It shows, even if the resurrection did happen hypothetically, it was not important for these communities. When James was writing, it clearly was not important for his community. When Mark was writing, because Mark finishes in chapter 16, verse 9, yeah, it did not have any resurrection. It was just an empty tomb. The woman's left and they told no one. But then afterwards, someone forged the ending of Mark, which is later appended to it. In Mark, it clearly shows there's a community who did not think it was too important to have... are you still recording? Huh? No, it's good, it's good. Do you see the way he replies? Do you see the way he replies? Like, obviously, like he speaks to me like... Why do you speak to me like that?
Carry on. Don't. Why do you allow yourself to be distracted? You was on the roll.
Yeah, no, you've been playing.
Don't be sidetracked.
Yeah. So there are books that early church fathers argued about, early communities argued about. There were compilations to this day. The Protestants and the Catholics have different amounts of books in it. So we can't just say simply there was a unanimous decision that these are all of the books of the Bible. It never was like that. It never has been like that. And some extra material just for food for thought if you want. Or do you want to say anything?
No, put the cream on the cake.
You know, there's a philosopher called Seneca, yeah? Now, he was a famous philosopher. Now, people want to know, like, if Paul's writings are so famous, then how come that philosophers like Seneca don't know about Paul? You know what happened? Letters were forged from Paul to Seneca and Seneca to Paul in order to boost the credibility of Paul, to show that he interacted with philosophers of his age. But the reality, these are forged writings. And we know this because we've got many computerized methods of detection, such as stylistics, for example. It measures the length of sentences, because when you technically, when you write, some people, for me, can go on and write a long sentence, 40 words per sentence. Other people just stick to 10 lines, 10 words a sentence. I use punctuation different from how you use punctuation. Michael said, oh, you said in the video that Paul fell out with the disciples. I'm not sure if I did. It wasn't a big thing for me. But I said it's unusual because I don't use that language. But I can see a possibility if I had read something, then I regurgitate it. So I give him that. But I question him if he really said that. Because it is the same thing how we can determine Paul's writings are Paul's writings or they're not his writing. Stylistics, corpus linguistics, the study of history, where he was, when it was written. And yeah, so going back to your question, there was never unanimity or consensus. Early scholars, later scholars, modern scholars. my man John.
So I'm going to be a Muslim from now on. Do what you're going to do.
No, but,
You're gonna do.
you asked me because
Now
forget
let me
about his.
answer you,
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you. That was a general overview of a lot of things.
Yeah.
So, first of all, no one's denying there was no arguments. No one's denying there was no people interpret like Marcion. For example, like for example, Marcion. Marcion, there was like the Jehovah's Witnesses, what they believe the Iranian, what they call the Aryans. There were many groups that were trying to attack, interpreting it their way, and there were arguments. Yeah. So of course, what the Muslims do, or scholars, alleged scholars like Bart Ehrman, which is, I don't even consider him as a scholar, to tell the truth, all right, because he's been so debunked so many times, all right, and he's lied.
But there's many. There's Bruce Metzger, F.F. Bruce, Dan
These
Wallace.
are all modern scholars.
No,
yeah?
Dan Wallace is very conservative.
Yeah,
There's
but
many
these scholars.
Don Wright.
Yeah, you're going through all these Western scholars. Have you been to the Eastern Orthodox?
No,
for example?
I haven't.
Have you been in the monasteries?
No, I haven't.
St. Catherine's? Have you been in Mount Sinai? Have you been to Mount Athos? Have you seen how the early church put the Bible together? Who put the Bible together?
Who did?
How did they put the Bible together? 1 minute. Listen, let me do my role.
Do your role, man. Do your thing.
Of course there were arguments. Marcion, for example, just before he died, he admitted it was wrong what he was doing, separating the New Testament, the New Testament God with Old Testament God. All right? Go and see how he's been debunked on YouTube.
I don't think he recanted from that position. He died on that position.
He died. No, he recanted on it. You can check
I'll double, but from what I know,
But
I'm
that's
quite
one
certain.
man, and he was a wealthy man, and
Yeah.
he started troubling. But listen, let's go right at the very beginning. Right at the very beginning, like what the Muslims got, you got Isnad.
Yeah, exactly,
Get me,
my
bruh.
man.
But so did the Christians. They have Isnad, and they had eyewitnesses right at the beginning. You memorized the Quran. So did the Christians. There was an oral tradition. The sayings were in such a way written that you would remember it. Like today, modern day, it's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Like you know what to say. It doesn't mean it's cats and dogs. What I'm saying is they recite the Bible, the New Testament. They knew a lot of things off by heart, but they knew the sayings and the oral traditions and the white witnesses. And all this grew from a community of people. And they knew what was the truth. And then you get creeping in certain things happening years later, like Gospel of Thomas. What date is that manuscript? Do you know?
I think it's second. I think they're dated by the original one, the manuscript. But the original one, because they say it's the. Sorry, do you want me to answer the question?
Yeah.
So they say that the way it's formatted would suggest that it can date as early as the 60th century.
Look at that, 6th century.
No, 60th. Sick as in
60
AD, yeah.
Impossible. It's not.
Because remember I told you there's 4 levels of writing.
Yeah,
one is the oral tradition which you mentioned. The other one is collection.
Check
so
Gospel of Thomas. Just check it for the argument. Check what date is the actual earliest manuscript of Gospel of Thomas. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
But there are many manuscripts where they've taken off. There's the Eastern Orthodox have even got, for example, the Proto-Evangelion
of Peter.
Of James, I think it is.
Proto-Gospel of James, okay.
Yes.
Peter? No.
They've got Apocrypha,
Yeah.
hidden Gospels, hidden things. They use them for evidences.
Then you just agreeing with what? You asked me a question on this.
No. But
you're answering.
I understand what you're saying. But what I'm saying is that the eyewitnesses to the eyewitnesses. The community there, they knew the families before, and they knew. Let me finish that. So they remember these things. They put what was together. They had to have the councils because many things people were trying to creep in. That's why. Do you know what I mean? That's why Paul, when he went to Thessalonica, went to Corinth, and went through the other because they started to mix things up. So you're going to have these arguments
So-
at the beginning. But you're just picking one point there, one oh, and it's like,
No, there's so much. You know, I'm just going by the questions
And
that
you would
people ask
What
me.
he's saying is,
So-
for him
so-
to give you a definite answer, you have to go through the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the synopsis. Now we're gonna break. Every time you've asked me a question, I've tried to entertain.
no,
You've been
you've got to let me
patient.
finish. You've got to let me go on the roll.
Oh, you still?
Oh, no, when I start finishing.
Oh,
This took for half hour.
yeah, I know. That's why. That's the
saw
only
one
reason.
bloody thing in
I know. That's the only reason I'm
No.
holding myself.
People couldn't read and write in those days, normal people. So like you go in the church, the Orthodox church, for example. I'm saying Orthodox because all the churches there are Orthodox at the moment, yeah? So you look, you see all these icons. One of them icons you see them all around. You ever seen it in the Orthodox church?
Sorry?
Have you seen the icons? And how
Yeah.
all these things is to teach the people the Bible because they couldn't read. This was the crucifixion, this was the resurrection, this was Jesus' baptism, this was, and you see the depictions of these things. John the Baptist, when he was beheaded. So all these things, the community knew what was going on now. Most important is something happened, the resurrection. The writings were like this, what you're saying. They don't mention more of the Christology of Jesus, being God or being divine.
Don't mind me. My eyes are gonna go here, but I'm listening to you.
But then after the crucifixion, you're seeing John, it's more Christology. He starts talking about him being a divine. You know, people, the eyewitnesses there, they saw what was happening, crucified and back to life. That's why they died martyr's death. It's not like today you could be brainwashed, for example, or whatever. You've been told this and this, and you go and do a martyr's death. There, they actually saw what happened, and they died for their belief, like the apostles did, you see. But these things were grown as a community. You're going to have, that's why we had the councils to define everything. And these critics, right at the very beginning, there weren't many critics like this, like majority critics like this to criticise what you're saying. Anyway, we can go on and on and on and on and on, but you know your critics, you've got to look at the oldest critics, look at the date of those manuscripts,
So
and they're
I'm
quite far after.
So I'll just engage shortly. Again, maybe.
Carry on.
So you know you mentioned sanad is slightly different from
Say
what
again?
sanad. Isnad, you said isnad, yeah?
Yeah,
Isnad.
yeah.
So it's slightly different when we have an oral tradition. We have people behind that oral tradition, and we also have another science which examines the people in each of
So
these.
do we.
Yeah. So just
And
going
we
back.
call it holy tradition, actually.
Yeah, so-
we don't call it man's tradition. Man's tradition is different. Holy tradition is different.
So this
and
is
oral tradition.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So I can imagine a community that are oral, even proficient. But remember, we're not talking about Jews alone. When Paul preached, he preached to the Greeks who are not oral like the Jews are. So you have to understand one holds an oral tradition, the other one does not. And plus, even if you look at the Homeric poems that we have, yeah, there's scholars differ as what the original form. Now the Homeric poems in Greek society were passed down by oral tradition.
Please
So,
forgive me one second.
yeah.
Is it okay to say something?
Yeah, of course. I
Sorry,
can't
I'm
stop
sorry,
you. I
I'm
can't
sorry.
stop you.
Don't imply that the Greeks didn't have oral tradition.
No, I just gave you one.
The manuscripts, the New Testament was in Greek. The original manuscripts are in Greek.
Yes.
Some people say Aramaic. No, you will not find Aramaic manuscripts older than the Greek manuscripts. Now you read, you can see it's from an Aramaic mind though.
Yeah, I get to that point.
Right
as well.
now, there were Greek-speaking Jews at that time, and most language, is like
Hellenistic
English now,
Jews, yeah.
it's all Greek.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
some Greek.
So anyway, that society, they had an oral tradition, but what we know from that oral tradition, it was not like the Jewish oral tradition.
Right.
Now, because let me just go on floor. So the oral tradition that we have of the Bible, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the early church fathers do describe two gospels. Papias in particular, he talks about two, yeah, if I'm correct, yeah. One of them is Mark and one of them is Matthew. They prefer the Matthean priority, meaning that Matthew was the first of the four gospels. Modern scholars say something different. different. You probably already know. They say a Markian priority, meaning the old church fathers believe Matthew was the first gospel to written. However, scholars generally almost unanimously agree Mark is the first gospel. Yeah.
And when did
Yeah. So this is what I'm getting to. So there's two quotes. They say Matthew was the first to be written, but they say Matthew was written in Hebrew, and then other people translated it who we don't know who.
Who says that?
I'll show you.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then you have to look why
This
they're
is
saying
church
that.
fathers. This is church fathers. Two fathers. I'm not a drug dealer. Don't look at me like.
Do you know the mullahs? Sorry, your mullahs.
No,
is
there's
the
no.
mullahs
There's
in
mullahs.
the mosque?
No, it's not mullahs.
Sometimes today they don't all agree.
So here you go. Here you go. Here.
Whatever
Yeah.
you call them, I don't know what you call them.
What's it? Lola.
No, in the mosque.
Yeah, it's Papias. Yeah, this is what I said. Papias. Yeah. Matthew had collected the oracles or sayings of Christ in Hebrew. How's it going with this one? Leave him, George. Leave him, George. Because you asked me where I got this from, so here it is. Yes,
I don't want you
Papias.
to carry
Yeah.
on talking because I'm going to end up being a Muslim and I'll be careful, I'm getting scared.
So then Matthew wrote the oracles.
Don't be
Yeah.
scared.
Now you have to know what oracles mean as well, but in our own time.
Hello.
Yeah.
Who's
So
writing
Matthew,
this?
this is
Who's
Papias, church father of.
What date? Is that
Very
important.
Yeah, it is. But this is one.
what?
Yeah.
First century?
This is actually it's 125 to 150 is when they say. Yeah. Yeah. But this is one of the earliest statements that we have on the compilation of Matthew. And why?
Eusebius before him.
He got it from the
No,
elders.
Yusuf was later, and he quotes him.
He got it from the
Yeah, and he
elders.
got it from. Oh my, this is why I need Idris next to me. And he quotes, it's a conflated sanad, isnad. He claims that he got it from John the Elder. John the Elder passed it down to someone, and it gets to Papias. Then it's quoted by Eusebius.
Yeah.
So it's a conflated isnad. But anyway, he said this is why the church fathers believe Matthew was the first one to be written, but read what it actually says. So then Matthew wrote the oracles. Now people have argued oracles, same as the word logia, yeah, because there's another statement about which means sayings. And this is where I told you that the
logia,
Gospels,
yeah.
the Gospels evolved in four stages: the oral stage, the collection stage, the proto-gospel stage, and the gospel stage. So the first one was the oracles, or like you said, how do you pronounce it? Logia.
The word,
Yeah.
the sayings.
The sayings, yeah. So in the Hebrew language, and everyone interpreted them as he was able.
Yeah.
So one second.
But
So
before that-
one second. I'll just make the point that I was asking. The Matthew we have, however, one, it's not written in Hebrew.
Exactly.
No, one second. So the Matthew we have is not the Matthew that they were talking about was the first one written. In
No.
fact, the Matthew, one second, I'll build the argument properly, yeah?
Carry on.
Is based, what we understand of the Matthew in the New Testament today is based on the Synoptic tradition, which is that they're seen as the same. Optic meaning seen.
Yeah.
Seen is like grouped together.
Yeah.
Synoptic. What are the Synoptic Gospels? Matthew, Mark, Luke. And then John is the other one, which is not the same. Irenaeus, I think he says, this is known as the spiritual gospel. So John does not fall in the Synoptic Gospels. Now, when we study the Synoptic Gospels, we get the Synoptic problem. And what is the Synoptic problem? In Luke and Matthew. Remember, Matthew is supposed to be the first one, but the problem arises, Luke, Matthew, and Mark have words, ideas, and sequences of those in the same order. Now, Mark, 80% of Mark is found in 40% of Luke, word for word. So it cannot be simply maybe, it's an opinion, they're literally copying a document, and scholars believe that document is also, it's a Q document, yeah, is also written on by paper. So they say the solution is there's two source theory and there's four source theory. Yeah. So they're saying that Matthew and Luke is based on Mark, and they have another one which is called a double tradition, the Q source. Now if Matthew is the same as the Matthew Papias is saying, which Papias is saying is the first one, why is it that Matthew we have today is copying of Mark, which is not an eyewitness?
You're
And the
assuming
one,
that.
no, this is what scholars say.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
this
scholars
is
say.
their
Let me tell
argument.
you, let me tell
Now
you.
the Mark one, it says, I think it's Papias as well. Yeah, if you want me to pull that out, I can pull it out.
no,
Because
no,
I've
no,
shown you
no,
everything, every time.
You're going too much,
Too fast.
and I can't take it anymore. No, we said good up to
It
now.
is,
Let's
yeah,
hang
yeah.
it in there.
Yeah.
You're very good. Let's
So
go
the Mark
slowly.
the Mark and Matthew we have today is not the Mark and Matthew
We're
they
gonna address that.
attested.
Let's
Yeah.
go back. So he said it was in Hebrew. Matthew, yeah?
The oracles,
Written
or
in Hebrew.
just said logi, which are
The
sayings.
lawyer was written in Hebrew.
Lawyers, you say lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawyer, not
Lawyer,
A-W-R.
you're saying it.
So now these, he said Matthew's written in Hebrew, yes?
Yeah,
Where is that manuscript? The oldest manuscript is in Greek.
exactly. That's why this is what
Wait
this
a minute.
arguing my point.
1 minute. So he's claiming
The one we
something's
have is
in
Greek.
Hebrew. Yeah.
He's
Wait a minute.
pap-
Hang in.
Sorry, George.
The one written in the one I go on the wall and then he cuts me.
My man, you know what? I appreciate you in this conversation.
No,
Trust
no,
me.
listen.
It's a nice
The
conversation.
one we're just talking, yeah? So he said it was written in Hebrew, but yet there's no Hebrew manuscript around. We don't know if there was a Hebrew manuscript. That Hebrew manuscript he's referring to is later.
Church
because the Greek manuscript, what I know, they've got fragment in Magdalene University in Oxford. And there's got fragment, Soviet, and right early, or Kyrios, the Lord, they refer to Jesus. That's a big thing. That's very big. John Stanton book. Look it up, although it's been kind of refuted, but their manuscripts, hang in there. What happened in 70 AD?
Jerusalem was wiped out.
Don't you think they would have mentioned that in their manuscripts?
If
That
they-
big event, if they were written later on. These are all written long before 70 AD. Or as they were mentioned all this demolition in Rome. Isn't it?
Well, the scholars do suggest that.
No, forget what scholars say, man. I don't listen to scholars. But
Go build your arguments, right?
this is very important. So, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. Big event, demolish all of Jerusalem. They would have mentioned that in them documents. They don't mention it. Very quiet.
Okay, but what would be the point that you're suggesting
is,
now?
These were written down before 70 AD.
Okay.
All right, and we have fragments of them around.
Okay, let's go
Hang
by
in
this,
there.
yeah?
2nd century.
So forget 2nd century. We're going right.
Let's see what he says. Let's see. Sorry, I don't really know.
So my
Let's see
point
what
is-
his argument
My
is.
point is they're referring to a Hebrew document written in Hebrew, Matthew. That could be a Hebrew document dated later on, not there at that time.
Okay.
Now, what was the other thing you were talking about?
It was just logia or however you pronounce it, yeah. So here, yeah. So yeah. So your point was.
Watching. No.
You're
But
Jim.
basically, it's a good point I'm saying. Isn't it? So these manuscripts must have been written before 70 AD.
So yeah.
And there are fragments, a lot of arguments to argue about it. So there was a church father, it's not Eusebius then, it was someone else. Show me the Plymouth the Younger. Harold
Yeah.
Ship.
This is the one. Yeah, from John. This is the one I
What
quote.
date is that? There was
Yeah.
one.
He
very
gives the
early.
isnad which you are talking about goes to John there. The
Yeah,
reply
but
there.
they said that there's no reason why we shouldn't believe the Gospels, the names attributed to those Gospels.
Okay, let's deal with one.
were
Let's
genuinely those
let's
people.
do one because we're talking about Matthew. Now here what we have, yeah, and it says the logia, which are sayings. That's
sayings,
exactly
yeah.
how we know that the first process of Jesus' statements were in the formation of
There
the
were
Gospels.
sayings,
There were sayings, collections, proto-Gospels, and then Gospels.
Talking to us and we wrote them sayings down. That's why he spoke. Sorry to go
Yeah.
on. I'm sorry.
No.
That's why he was saying in rhymes, not rhymes, like
Poems and
the way he spoke.
yeah, alliteration.
Story
Yeah,
and all that. So we knew, and we all write them down now. And then we come in, we give it to people.
I got that.
So who knows what to put there?
Okay, excellent.
It was grown
Excellent.
from all the community what agreed to put them down.
Yeah, excellent. So now we have Matthew, and this is what the argument for Matthean priority is, that it's the earliest gospel, and the basis of that is this statement from Papias, which comes in Eusebius, and that's the reason that the church fathers believe in. Now you can say no, that's wrong, but this is what you base your whole argument on. Don't listen to modern scholars say. So it's like you're shooting down your own argument. I'm saying that modern scholars are saying that you have this synoptic problem. Mark is the first one according to them written, but the older scholars say Matthew is written first, and the reason they say Matthew is written first is because of this statement. And even when you look at the word sayings, this is exactly what we know of how the Gospels were made, so it makes sense. But however, the Matthew we have now is not the Matthew they had then. The
How do you
Matthew
know?
then, I'll give you. I've got you, man. I got you. The Matthew then, yeah, was written in Hebrew. The Matthew now, what's the concept?
It's just because he mentions it.
Yeah.
And yet there's no.
Well, do you not believe what they said?
We've got, I told you, in Magda University,
But
there's fragments there of the church father Matthew.
Yeah, he's a church father, and this is if you just this is your argument.
All church fathers don't agree.
But George, this is your argument. George, this is your argument. This is your argument. You see. This is not my argument. My argument with modern scholars, we look through language and understand through corpus linguistics and stylistics and the study of language. First gospel is Mark. Thereafter Mark is Matthew and Luke. This is called a Markian priority. Yours is the Matthean priority based on what the church father says. And what the church fathers said is this. But if you doubt this, then you shoot down your whole pack of cards or house of cards comes crumbling down, which I don't mind anyway. And then not only that, you have the statement of Mark as well. They say the same thing of Mark. Mark wrote down the Logia of Peter. Now again, what we have, and he says he wrote it in any order. If we find the quote, when you have time at home, maybe watch the videos and find that statement in regards to the first Mark that we have. It's not the Mark that we have today. The Mark of that time, if you read what it said, it was just sayings in an unordered, because this is the way that Kirai or something, I'm not sure about Greek, Peter spoke in Kiro or something, yeah? And Mark wrote down in an unassembled order. So read exactly the same word, because I don't want someone to say, oh, that's not exactly how to say it. And you see what the Mark we have though is an order. And not only is it just Kiro or Logia, it's also a narrative, meaning that the Gospel of Mark we have today is not the Gospel of Mark they had before. And this is not something strange. The church fathers, yeah, the church fathers, they mention all the differences. Like we always mention this difference, yeah? Like when in the John 17 verse 3, it's eternal life that you should know the one true God and Jesus Christ who he sent. We know church fathers could not...
Stop there. This is very important. Please dig into this one.
Yeah.
We believe in one true God and Jesus Christ. The Greek, if you know the Greek, and I'm not claiming now I know this, but I heard it from proper scholars, Greek professor scholars, that end, A-N-D, the way it's said in that context, doesn't mean, oh, there's God and there's Jesus. It means they are one as one. It means as one. So now, explaining all this, I can't tell you.
Okay.
But you look at that.
Let's move to because we talked a lot of this. I could keep going. You can hear that. Let's talk about this one. Let's talk about this one. 17 verse 3. Yeah. This isn't the only place in John. If you read in John 5 verse 43, it speaks about Father being the only God. So it's not the only place. Even if we read at the head of every Jesus, this is what Paul says, yeah? And this is the difficulty. You have Unitarian Christians who are looking at the Bible. You have Trinitarian.
No, that's why I'm going to stop you there. That's why I believe it's not. John came later, yeah?
The Gospel of John you're talking about. Yeah.
What you're talking about here is what, from where?
Oh, this is from Paul's writing, which is the earliest.
Yeah, but John's come after. Why?
Yeah. Well, you're going, yes?
They don't. Nice to meet you. That's why, after the crucifixion, there weren't too much of the Christology, but the divinity of Jesus. After the...
Alright. See, you ready next week?
I should, yeah.
Sorry.